Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Fawzia Peer from Minara Chamber of Commerce on business matters. This evening we have the honor to interview Dr. Faisal Suliman from SAMNET. And the topic that he has chosen is the importance of voting, also participation in the upcoming elections. Dr. Suliman, are you there?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for the opportunity.
Wa alaikum salam. Now, normally when we ask or we advise community to register to vote, we get some negative responses from them like, oh, I'm tired of politicians who don't deliver, or the fact that politics is not for me, all sorts of excuses. And I understand wanting to shut it all out and just go on and just try to live your life, take care of your family in peace. But here's the problem. While some folks are frustrated and turned out and staying at home on election day, trust me, other people are showing up. Democracy continues with or without you. Some of them are voting. Some people are voting in every election, either for local or for national, because these folks who are voting know the impact that the leaders that they choose can have a very single part of their lives. So you are actually letting other people make some really key decisions about the life you are going to live, the place you are going to live, the services that you are going to receive. And you may not like what they decide. You may not even like living with the consequences of other people's choice. But that's what happens when you stay at home and you decide that you don't want to vote or you don't want to register to vote. You are essentially putting your future in the hands of others. And the truth is, that's exactly what some of us are hoping that you are going to do. So, good evening again, and assalamu alaikum to Dr. Faisal. I will give you the opportunity to start your conversation with me. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Fawzia. I think you have summarized one thing, and that is, this is going to continue with or without you. The question is whether you want some sort of say in who gets to make those decisions and what policies they follow. Also to remember that the fewer the number that turn out to vote, the more the people who do vote count. So in other words, if there's a 30 or 40% voter turnout, and the 70% of the eligible voters choose not to, those 30% make decisions that affect the whole 100%. Their value of their vote is double and triple, because 30% of them chose for 100% of the people. So, when like you say, when you're lazy and you are fed up with politicians, they're all the same. I think we must live in some sort of hope. If I can put it to you this way, Fawzia, if we saying that all politicians are the same, we are then relegating ourselves to just give up and accept the deteriorating services that we have, the corruption, everything else. And a Muslim doesn't give up hope. One of the core beliefs that we have, and that is why the people in Gaza stand up and they go out and they fight and they don't succumb, is because they believe in Allah's hope and mercy. And Allah's hope and mercy must descend on us in South Africa as well. But we must tie our camel. And tying the camel for now, until the date of elections is announced and voter registration closes, is to go register to vote. Yes, there is a discussion that needs to be had about who to vote for. But what's the point of having this wonderful discussion and debate when you haven't even registered to vote and you're not even in the game? No use choosing which paddle court to what racket you're going to buy and which fancy ball when you haven't even booked the court and you're not even in the game. So the least we can do is go and register to vote until, and of course in February there's going to be the one that you can do physically. But in the meantime, you can do it from the comfort of your phone or the internet, your computer very easily on the IESP website. It takes a few minutes to do. And really, we would encourage every man, woman, young adult over 18 who is eligible to vote to please register to vote, including our elderly who can then cast special votes, on election time. Now, why is it particularly important that in this coming up election? As people generally have seen, support for the ANC in many areas, Fawzia may disagree to some extent, has dwindled. There's a lot of talk about coalition politics. If we just think of the present eThekwini municipality, they needed the votes of all the small parties, the ANC, to stay in power the first time around. And of course, after that, they went into coalition with the EFF to remain in power. But the ANC did not get enough votes, which means that those smaller parties who gave their votes to the ANC had leverage. They had the ability to go and bargain. Say, I want safety and security. We want housing. We think our community who voted for us in Overport, what are the big problems? Services. So we want the services portfolio. That's negotiating. That's the horse trading that is the bread and butter and the lifeblood of politics. And in this coming election, those 5 and 6 votes in Cape Town in a national election or even in the provincial ballot and the regional ballot are going to mean that communities that had perhaps thought they got very little say are now going to have leverage. And given what we see coming out of the DA, which is now without question a Zionist vehicle. It is, in my opinion, it was a party before that was pro-Zionism and pro-Israel. Now, from what I've seen since the 7th of October, it is actually a vehicle for Zionism. It's a political party, by the way. It is a vehicle. And with this vehicle, they are taking along the Patriot Alliance, the IFP, Action and SA, Freedom Fund Plus, etc., that whole moonshot pact. And that has dire repercussions. If people think that South Africa's support for the Palestinians, South Africa's going to the International Court of Justice to charge Israel for genocide is going to be without consequence, without repercussions for the Muslim community, then they have not understood the scale of what has happened here with South Africa taking, even though it may be ceremonial and the judgment may come out, weeks from now. And they may even vote in Israel's favor, and it won't be surprising given the kind of pressure and the number of Western judges on that panel. But the fact that South Africa had the gall, the guts, the bravery, but mainly the gall in the eyes of the United States and Israel and the United to do this means it needs to be punished. And the Muslim community at the head of that list of punishment. So even if it is for your own self-interest, the other issue is the DA has been very pro this LGBTQ, wanting to have literally bordering on pornography taught to our young children in school under the guise of, this transgender movement. You want to put a stop to that? There's no use, Fawzia, keeping quiet, and from your experience, not getting involved, and then looking for context. Suddenly, when the syllabus is down in the Department of Basic Education, says, okay, here's the syllabus, you have to implement it, even in your private school. It's a national curriculum. Suddenly, we're running around for, who got context? Who got context in government? Who got context in Department of Education? Now is the time to make the context with your vote. So whether it is choosing one of we have clearly said already that we don't think you should be voting for any of that moonshot pact. But there are smaller parties, not the whole host of Mickey Mouse 10 parties. There may be one or two that may be worth considering. clearly the ANC has won some favor again with its stance on Palestine, but there's a lot of work to be done by the ANC for reasons we all know too well. So, point is, have your say, get the gun, get the bullet. We'll worry about how to fire that bullet, later this year. But for now, no use talking if you don't have the gun, you don't have the bullet. So that's the gun and the bullet for you, is your registration to vote. After that, you can decide which direction you want to point it in. And why importantly? Because the ANC is going to need partners, right? So what are the alternatives? People are saying, oh yeah, but we vote for the smaller parties, they're going to give their votes to the ANC. They may have to. Either the ANC is going to have to choose between aligning with a few smaller parties and giving some strategic positions, or aligning with the EFF, which is a bigger recipe for disaster, or aligning with the DA. And I can assure people, if the ANC is that desperate to align with the DA, the price the DA is going to ask for is Minister of International Affairs. That's the first prize. Security, all of those things. That will be the price the DA puts on the table to ANC. You want our vote? Fawzia, you know how the horse trading works. This is what we want. And DIRCO, after what has happened after the 7th of October, is going to be top of their list, national intelligence, so they can spy on us, on the community, on our mosques and our madrasas. Finance, for sure, the DA will say, yeah, we can turn the finance around. And then you'll have SARS investigating every Muslim organization, every madrasa, wanting to know everything. There are different ways to skin a cat, and I have no doubt the DA and the Zionists want to skin the Muslim cat. So these are all important things to be remembered when you're saying, I'm fed up, all the politicians are the same. It's no more, we passed only about national issues. We are talking about not the survival, but the comfort of the Muslim community in this country going forward. In the Western Cape in particular, but clearly nationally as well, if the ANC is that desperate that it wants to go into the coalition with the DA. And I know what the prizes the DA is going to ask for. So, if that is not a motivation enough, if that is not an understanding enough for the need to register to vote, over and above the fact that, we want to choose some politicians who are actually going to deliver. Yes, we're all fed up of corrupt politicians. We're all fed up of inept politicians. Maybe not necessarily corrupt, but just dumb. So let's choose the ones that we want, And one of the things to do is to now start attending some of the meetings, making sure you're registered, going through and insisting in these meetings and hold them accountable. We passed the stage from 1994 where we said, oh yeah, we got good guys and these are revolutionary movements and we trust them. We're going to blindly keep quiet and let them run things. We know where that has ended up. So whether it is a Muslim party or a Muslim name party or the ANC or anybody else, it is really our welfare. When you have, you tend to your garden, you tend to your finances, your personal interests, even your sports or your personal luxuries, you make some effort. Well, this is our religion at stake. It's the future of our children at stake. There are very few of us who got enough money to run away overseas. The vast bulk of us, 90%, are going to be remaining here, and so are our children. So make that effort to go register to vote. And inshallah, a separate discussion will be when the dates of the elections announced and the real politicking starts. We will talk about who you should and you shouldn't be voting for, or who you should consider for maybe a list of 3. And there could be a strategy for that. As you know, you could vote for one party on a national ballot. You may decide, okay, listen, there's a bit of a coalition or alliance. Let us vote for a different party on a regional and a provincial ballot. But all of this is useless, is empty talk if you are not registered to vote. I'm not sure, Fawzia, if that's an adequate motivation. I hope that people can reflect on and go and register.
Well, I must say, Dr. Suliman, this is what we have been religiously trying to speak to our people, but somehow that message is not going through. The main thing presently, what we should ask them to do is just register, that's all. We're not asking you to vote for anyone. Go and register when the time comes. And when you feel you have enough knowledge of all the parties and you think you are being influenced so and so that way or the other way or the leftist way, then it's left upon you. But let me tell you something about coalitions as well. Yes, you are correct when you say the smaller parties will make a huge difference if the present ANC government or party would need possibly extra votes or other parties to make up 50% or possibly 45%. So that's when they start this horse trading, as you call it. But one thing for sure is that the ANC would never, ever vote with the DA. Never. You must know that we have a transformative constitution. And we will not go with neoliberals and the conservatives that defend their white privileges, and of course their colonization legacy. So that will never happen, no matter what. And as far as possible, we reject and defeat such people. So as far as that is, the neoliberals, no, they'll be far from us. We are opposed to, fundamental transformation of South Africa, gaining such people or such parties to be in the forefront with us. No ways. Well, as far as the EFF, one can't say, when push comes to, or what's the thing? Shove, cuff, pull. Then you may have to just comply. But when I listened to what's his name, Malema, the other day, someone sent that video, and it pains you, to listen to him when he so vociferously states that Indians must not be anywhere. Indians must be taken out. They had enough privileges. So, that's it's not a good way of speaking for a politician of his stature. Well, he doesn't have much of a stature, I want to say, if he talks, shoots out of the hip that way. But I don't know what to say, because, we're going to keep convincing people whether they are going to listen or not.
There is a solution, Fawzia.
Tell me, what's the solution?
And that is, our people need to go and register to vote, even if it's one or two of those other parties, and then keep Mr. Malema out of national government, keep the DA out of national government, and help to ensure that there's, a proper run country by having our people in good positions, honest politicians who want to serve the country in good positions, that they can, act as speed traps and act as cameras on the road to ensure that you stick to the speed limit, you stick to the ANC in Parliament. I think, it'll be wishful thinking to think ANC, one way or another, is not going to get into power unless there is a catastrophe of major proportions and the DA, manages to get into coalition with others. But I think that would be far-fetched outside of the Western Cape. But the fact is, one of the ways of keeping Mr. Malema out is for people to go, if you're not voting for the ANC, and to pick one or two, and let's talk about that, like I said, when the dates of elections are announced and voter registration is closed, that how do you make strategic alliances? And those alliances then can give the ANC the votes where it needs them. It'll be naive and silly for people to think you're not go. We are on our own going to not be have to going to some sort of trading, but it's about what you trade and what you do with your seats in Parliament and what you hold accountable. And Fawzia, as we all know, the famous hadith: if something is wrong, try and change it yourself, and if you can't change, then you speak out against it. And if you can't even speak out against it, then at least think it wrong in your heart. But I think we are in the stage where we have to do something because literally the comfort of our religion, our religious practices, some of our beliefs, as far as the transgender movement is concerned, is under threat. We are literally possibly coming under threat, and therefore all the more reason to not be passive. And no use talking about, it's very common now to say, look at the Saudi Arabians and Egyptians and the UAE, useless, doing nothing for Palestine, which is true. But if you're not doing anything for yourself, for your country, for your religion, what's the use about talking about the Saudis? What's the use about, talking about others when you have the opportunity now to shape the future foreign policy, the future policy of, who gets into the provincial government, because a lot of the police services, etc., are still from provincial government. They're still from national. Local elections in 2 years' time, sure, 2026, we can talk about, domestic, local council issues that bother people. But in the meantime, to talk about everyone overseas, Biden is useless, is in the pocket of Netanyahu. None of that is not true. But what are you doing for your own country? What are you doing for your religion right here? What are you doing for the future support of Palestine? If people think that the way the Hamas delegation came here freely and is able to move around this country under the present government and foreign policy, if the DA were to come into power or to take over DERCO, do you think that is going to happen? Tony Leon, maybe I should remind people, Fawzia, that when the late Sheikh Yassin, who was crippled and drowned with a missile strike, this was before the days of drones, in his wheelchair by the Israelis, wanted to come visit South Africa. Tony Leon made it his personal mission and took credit for it, for stopping that visit.
Exactly. I remember that.
What is it, 20 years ago, 20 some odd years ago. If people think under this Zionist-led, controlled regime that could possibly come in if we are all apathetic and do nothing, you are freely going to be able to send money to Palestine and get the Hamas to come and visit, and to visit our politicians and our communities, and have Palestinians come here and study here and all of this. If you think that's going to happen, then you are very naive under a sort of Zionist-controlled government. So yes, the ANC is not by any stretch of the means
Faisal,
has done much for Palestine, or it could have done a lot more. It's been friends with Israel in many ways, but it is the only country. It is the only country in the world that stood up and said, not whether it was the marches, whether it was the president of the ANC wearing those scarves in public, whether it was statements by the president, more importantly by our Naledi Pendor, and then of course this case. The goal of it. So what do we have? What can we literally off our phone to register to vote, or go and stand in the queues on the 1st and 2nd of February when those schools are open, etc., and go register to vote for your country, for the future of your children, for your religion?
Faisal, I'll just leave you with a thought of youth education on this whole thing about politics. When we talk about the youth, they are in numbers, and our women as well. What I found when I did door-to-door, asking for ladies to vote for me or to vote, and most of them would say, I think majority of them, I'll ask my husband, I'll get back to you. So I hope they have evolved from that premise of saying, I will come back to you, but think on their own whether they should vote or register. So many youth are not registered. It's either they don't know politics, or they don't want to know politics, or we as parents on the discussion table over supper don't talk politics, or it's not about politics. It's about how our country is run. Do we want to change? Do we think that things are happening our way, the right way? And these are youngsters that are either going to university soon, or they are in business, taking over your business. And do they know much about the running of the country? Or do they know much about if there is no electricity, who should they contact? Or if the light poles are not working, who should they contact? Nothing. It's clean. Like, they're in that space where nothing really works on them, but beside just Netflix or playing on the phone or whatever. But I think we need to very seriously bring this to our discussion table. And I believe you are having something soon on participation of community to go and register. So I think you should emphasize on that.
Yes, on the 29th as well, Fawzia, it is an invitation to our listeners that at the Islamic Medical Association offices in Hudson Drive in Sherwood, we are hosting 3 or 4 small political parties to give them a chance, and more importantly, for people to get used to listening to politicians, asking questions, and of course we're going to have this for the bigger parties as well, and those will need more time. But inshallah, as we build up towards the election, we'll be, providing these different fora for people to engage the politicians. And you're absolutely right. Women make most of the important decisions. As I'm sure all the listeners know, they talk about the hand that rocks the cradle, rules the world. That is because it's the mother's hand that rocks the cradle. All of us as men, as adults, as grandparents, as professionals, etc., our values, our fathers were busy working. The values, your manners, your akhlaq, your sabr came from your mother. Your, right and wrong, it came from your mother. So the women have shaped, and they make decisions in their homes, madrasa, school, all of these things. So yes, you're quite right. They should be able to, even if the men are, saying nah or whatever, the women should be understanding the importance of voting and taking part in making decisions that affect them. The other, of course, elephant in the room, Fawzia, is some of our ulama groups who say, haram to participate. I think that train has left the station 25 years ago. I'm mentioning it because it still exists, and some people still think this is relevant. All of those people are quite happy to enjoy the benefits of the democracy, of the way the country is run, and the government sorting out your Hajj quotas and getting involved in Hajj and everything else. And then suddenly, no, it's haram to participate in the kuffar system. Well, I haven't seen any of those people emigrate to Afghanistan or anywhere else that they think there's a Sharia government, or Saudi Arabia or anywhere. If that is the case, then it behoves you then either to change it, which still means you must participate, right? Or then to move, to make hijrah. They've done neither participate nor move to one that you do say, okay, it's an Islamic country, or it's a Sharan according to Sharia, it's not a kuffar system. But to sit back, idly make comments on radio and on pamphlets and all of this and say, yeah, kuffar system, don't participate. Well, where are those people when it comes to, and from your experience, Fawzia, you want land for Istima, you want land for a graveyard, and now the
100%
for a masjid. Where are those same people helping the Muslim community to arrange those things? Well, oh no, kuffar system, don't get involved. No, but then run to the politicians when you need rezoning for a masjid. Oh no. Oh yeah, who got contact? But it's a kuffar system.
Yeah.
Why you want contact? So, we must now get past all of that, ignore those, take charge of ourselves, our country, get involved. We made a mistake of maybe keeping quiet since 1994 and let politicians run amok, which they have. But that's if you have a child that you haven't disciplined, and then they're now in Standard 6 and Standard 7, and you let them go, you don't say, okay, now it's too late, he's in Standard 6, I'll let him have freedom from grade 1. I don't care about his, results now. I'll let him be. No, you say, okay, my mistake, I made a mistake, let's start ensuring this child now starts studying, sees to his schoolwork, sees to his madrasa, you do something. And Quran, Allah commands you to do this. So, that resistance that came from listening to people who said it's haram, well, those same people are the ones that Fawzia, come and see you quietly when they want something done. Or when you used to be...
Many of them, even now.
Yes, exactly. So let's pass that vote of not permissible. South Africa is the only country in the world that still has a few people hanging on to that. The rest of the world takes part. They take part. They go. They get involved. They join political parties, and they go to Congress, and they go to the Senate and to the British Parliament, and they make their voices known. Even if it's one voice in 1,000, they make it known. We have seen. I'm not here to punt specifically, but we've seen, one NSP MP take up the Palestinian cause, ensure that visas for Palestinians were scrapped. This is because you had a Muslim there, even though he was on another party's ticket, but his voice was clearly heard. Now imagine if we have 20 Muslim voices from different political parties being heard in Parliament, even if it's under different political parties, and showing, and with their action, no corruption. This guy says he'll be there, he does it. He says he's going to sort out a problem, he does it. Not just for Muslims, not just for Indians, for everybody. I mean, we are here as a mercy unto mankind. So this is part of our duty to serve, and if we have skills, to transfer those skills. If we think we are smarter than some of the politicians we call dumb pop, then let us go and either help them, join them, or replace them. But to sit back and say, oh, no, haram, can't get involved, mustn't take part in politics, politics is a dirty game. Well, load shedding is a dirty game. Not having your municipal sorted out. LGBTQ is going to be dirtier than you can expect if you told put same-sex toilets in the Muslim schools and teach virtual pornography to 7 and 8 year olds under the guise of the transgender sex agenda. Then what are we going to do?
I think basically the community should understand that voting for, firstly registering, but voting for smaller parties can help sometimes. Because as you said, if the majority party needs one or two smaller parties, you can call the shots, And that's exactly what in the local government some of our smaller parties did. They joined the ANC, and then when they found that things were not good enough for them, they opted out. So you remember many years ago when the late Raj Bansi was, just one vote, and he was on provincial government. And I remember the ANC needed one party to make up. Possibly, I think, I don't remember whether it was 50% or 49% at that time. So they had to play around with a few parties, but the only party that came forward was Raj Bansi. But what did he do to the ANC at that time was sad. He said, if I give you my vote, if I give you my vote, I want to be a minister in sports, So that is what a small party could do, So
and this is important. We have to safeguard. I think people have to understand. We have to safeguard DIRCO, national intelligence, state security, safety and security. All of those things we have to get people in. It's no big secret what the Zionists are planning. If it hasn't been clear what's going on in Cape Town and the money that's been thrown around to make sure that this little patriotic alliance and IFP and all of that don't oppose the DA and they give them their vote, then people are living in a cocoon if they cannot see what is going to happen coming forward. So yes, register to vote now. Inshallah, 2 months time or 1 month, 6 weeks from now probably we'll have a different discussion on who to vote for, or maybe here's a list of 3, narrow it down to 3, and but in the meantime, attend meetings, educate yourself a little bit, and more importantly, all of this is useless if you do not register to vote.
Yeah, and I think beside the moonshot parties, with all the Zionist funding that they're receiving, and I just hope, one good thing is Western Cape Muslims are not going to vote for the DA. So I wonder which side that vote will go, but at least that will lessen the votes towards the DA. Although the DA has majority whites there and coloureds invariably vote for the DA. So we don't know what can happen there. So we have to be very careful. In the same strength, look at it this way here. We have MKMVA with Zuma, and then you have Ace Makashule's party, as well as the EFF. The EFF has asked Zuma long ago to join. The cup of tea that he had at Nkandla will give you the answer. So if these parties get together, then we're going to have a huge problem here when it comes to radical economic transformation. It's going to be thrown at our face, where Indians will not be allowed anywhere to work in any governmental offices or whatever. So we must guard against that as well. Remember, that's coming up. No matter how many votes they get, but that coalition of those three and maybe some others who are not happy with the ANC may join that coalition, but that's going to be possibly a coalition that's going to cause problems. So, listeners out there...
And that coalition has no principles, Fawzia.
Yes, absolutely.
They will flip-flop and just do whatever suits their pockets, because there's absolutely no backbone, no morality, no moral compass. It's just flip-flop what suits us on the day.
But sometimes people don't think and they just vote. You see, when they look at a person, they vote. So, Dr. Suliman, I think we have to come to an end now, and thank you very much. What are your last final words to the people out there?
Register to vote, or don't complain when things go against you and you find Islam under threat.
Thank you very much for coming on board. And to the people out there, you are essentially putting your future in the hands of others. And the truth is that that's exactly what some folks are hoping that you do. So registering to vote just isn't hard. And once you are registered in the VD you belong, you will be able to vote. Few minutes it takes to vote. And that's going to be opening next month. I'm not quite sure, I think for the 4th or the 5th. And that's the only way we can make a change if you really want your vote to make a change in this country. And if you're not registered to vote, well, it's not about the leader you must think of. The power of our democracy is in with us. It's in us. So the person that you are looking for standing in your shoes. So you are the person that can save yourself from this. So ladies and gentlemen out there, listeners, please go out and register. Thank you very much for listening.